My non-alcoholic eggnog recipe with rum extract is an easy and delicious trip down memory lane. I know that most traditional eggnog recipes have some kind of alcohol, rum, brandy, bourbon, something like that. But when I was growing up, my family and I, we always bought non-alcoholic eggnog from the grocery store. And even though it was on the sweet side, it's what I grew up with. So it's what I think of when I think of eggnog. And I'm sure that a lot of people out on the internet are just like me. There are a lot of ways to make eggnog, but I think that this recipe is the easiest and best tasting homemade eggnog because of the ingredients like rum extract, heavy whipping cream, and nutmeg. Here in this bowl, I have 8 large egg yolks. A lot of recipes using the amount of milk and heavy whipping cream that I'm going to use 6 egg yolks, but after doing my research, I think 8 is probably going to give this eggnog that custard flavor and the yellowish color that I remember from my childhood. So I would use 6 to 8 egg yolks, but a minimum of 4. I am going to use some milk. I'm using 3 cups or 720 grams of whole milk, along with 1 cup or 240 grams of heavy whipping cream, 1 cup, or as I measure, 210 grams of plain white sugar. And for the flavoring, I'm going to use, I'm not exactly sure the quantities yet, but I'm going to use some rum extract, vanilla extract, nutmeg, cinnamon, and a dash of salt. The first step is to beat the egg yolks with the sugar until they are like a creamy yellow color. So what I am going to do is I am going to use my handheld electric mixer. If you want to do this by hand, you definitely can, but I think this is easier. So I'm going to get out my handheld mixer there, and I am going to add in the sugar bit by bit, probably max 1 to 2 tablespoons at a time as I beat with the eggs. There, I'm done beating the egg yolks with the sugar. I beat them for about 2 minutes, I would say, on low to medium speed. As you can see, they are a creamy yellow color. Absolutely perfect. Now it's time to move on to the milk and heavy whipping cream. Like I said, here I have 3 cups of whole milk and 1 cup of heavy whipping cream. Some of the eggnog recipes, they call for whipping the heavy whipping cream on the side and then later on folding it in. I thought about doing that, but I think that's a lot of, as the Argentines would say, quilombo, a lot of hassle. And the recipes I saw, it still turned out creamy, just cooking the heavy whipping cream with the milk. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to add the heavy whipping cream to this. I'm going to add my dash of salt, maybe 1/8 of a teaspoon or so. Helps to bring out the flavors. And for the spices, I've decided I'm just going to start off with 1/2 of a teaspoon of nutmeg. I may add more later, we'll see. Now I have everything on medium heat, gas mark 3 out of 6, and I am bringing this to a simmer, stirring constantly. By a simmer, I don't mean a boil. I want it warm enough to when it's just before it's starting to boil. It's going to have some bubbles around the sides. That would be perfect. Milk, if you bring it to a boil, it usually overflows. That is not what I want. I just want this to be slightly below a boil, and then I'm going to temper the milk and heavy whipping cream into the egg and sugar mixture. It's been almost 10 minutes cooking the milk and heavy whipping cream. on medium heat, gas mark 3 out of 6, and as you can see, it is now simmering. If I stop stirring, you can see some bubbles on the surface. It's right below boiling, exactly where I want it. So now I'm going to turn off the heat, and I'm going to start tempering this mixture into my eggs and sugar. I did beat it one last time, the eggs and sugar, and honestly, if you could probably beat this while stirring the dairy over heat, that would probably be ideal, but since I'm recording, it's hard to do those two things at once and show you. So like I said, I'm going to temper this hot liquid into this cold liquid. So what that means is that I'm going to add a little bit of the hot liquid so that I can bring this temperature up to the same temperature as this. So I'm taking maybe 1/4 of a cup. I'm going to add it in while stirring. Actually, I'm just going to start off with a tablespoon or so and stir it in. Why am I doing this? Because if I just add this directly to the eggs, I'm going to cook the eggs. What you have to do is you have to bring the eggs up to the same temperature as the hot liquid. So I'm adding a little bit at a time. It's better to go slower than to go faster and end up with really sweet scrambled eggs. As you can see, this pot is empty because I actually decided to just temper all of the milk and cream into the eggs. As you can see, it has thickened up a lot. It tastes very, very good. I tried it, I just could not resist, and so far I'm pleased. However, we are not done. These eggs are not totally free of bacteria. Honestly, I think you would probably be okay if you use pasteurized eggs. You'd probably be okay at this point, but it's best to cook this a little bit more. We have to bring this to somewhere between 160 and 165 degrees Fahrenheit to make sure that we kill the bacteria. So back on the stovetop it goes. I'm literally just going to pour this back into the pot, and then I'll bring you back. My eggnog is back in the pot and it's on the heat. Once again, it's on medium heat, gas mark 3 out of 6, and I am stirring constantly as I bring it up to temperature. Although this is not absolutely necessary, I have a kitchen thermometer that I'm going to use to measure the temperature. Like I said, it needs to be between 160 and 165. It's been on the heat for maybe 2 minutes and it's approaching 140 now. Honestly, I don't think this will take very long. It's been about 4 or 5 minutes since I turned on the heat, and this eggnog is already past the temperature that I need. It's at about 170, so it is definitely done. I turned off the heat. I'm just gonna stir it a little bit. It was hard setting up the tripod and stirring and taking the temperature all at the same time. So even though it did get a bit hotter than I wanted, I honestly think it'll be okay. However, if you do not have a thermometer, how can you tell when it's ready? People say that if it coats the back of a spoon and you can run your finger through it like that and it leaves a line, it's done. So let's do that one more time. If it's on the back of a spoon, you take your finger through it like that, and you can move the spoon like that, and it's not runny, it coats the back like that, it is done. So this is definitely at the temperature that I need. Even though I had a very basic thermometer and a lot of recipes online suggest you have a thermometer, I honestly don't think that it is necessary.
Since I was a bit conservative at the beginning of this recipe with the spices and extracts, now that it's really coming together, it's time to add more and adjust the flavor to get it right where I want it. In addition to what I added at the beginning of the recipe, I added some more nutmeg and cinnamon for a total of 1 teaspoon of nutmeg and a half teaspoon of cinnamon. Now that the eggnog is off the heat, it's time to add the extracts. I'm going to add a total of 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract and 1 teaspoon of rum extract. Just like with the nutmeg and cinnamon, earlier in this recipe, I was more conservative and I added just a little bit. When you're learning how to make non-alcoholic eggnog at home or any new recipe, I highly suggest that really invasive ingredients like extracts and spices, you start off with a little bit, taste it, and then add more later, because you can always add more later, but you can't take away.
Before I put my non-alcoholic eggnog in the refrigerator to chill, I'm first going to strain it. I'm straining it because even though I tempered the eggs and I made sure that I was careful, sometimes little pieces of egg do cook, so I want to make sure that I get those out. Here I have my big bowl, I cleaned it out, and I have a strainer, and I'm simply just going to pour my prepared eggnog through the strainer. Honestly, here, I'll do it so you can see. Honestly, I think I was pretty careful, and I don't think I have any bits of egg, or very few, so this should not be an issue. If you do not have a strainer and you still want to make homemade eggnog, you definitely can. Honestly, this step is optional. You can see there are some bits and pieces, but not a ton. And when I was trying it, I really didn't notice any bits and pieces. I think most of them would settle to the bottom anyway, so do not feel obligated to do this step. Once I get my eggnog strained, I'm going to cover it with plastic wrap. Just going to put a plastic wrap over the top, and I'm going to chill this in the refrigerator for a few hours. Now it's time to serve my non-alcoholic eggnog. It's been chilling in the refrigerator for about 12 hours. I tasted it and it tastes amazing.
This quick and easy non-alcoholic eggnog recipe with rum extract was some of the best eggnog I have ever had. As I said earlier, I grew up drinking store-bought eggnog without alcohol that was actually pretty high quality. If you live in metropolitan Chicago, I'm sure around the holidays you've had brands such as Dean's or Oberweis eggnog, and this tastes just as good, if not better, than those do. It was rich, creamy, custardy, well spiced, and it had a nice touch of flavor from the rum and vanilla extracts. This was unmistakably some of the best eggnog I have ever had. When you buy store-bought eggnog, sometimes it's not really clear what it is that really gives it that flavor that you know and love. And if you look at the ingredients list on the bottle, it's usually kind of vague. It says something like natural and artificial flavor. But I've come to find out that that flavor that is unmistakably eggnog is a combination of nutmeg, cinnamon, rum extract, and vanilla extract. This was actually my first time making eggnog ever, and like I said, I think I nailed this. It is so close to what I grew up drinking, it's kind of scary. The only real difference is that this eggnog isn't quite as creamy. I'm guessing the store-bought eggnog without alcohol has more heavy whipping cream, so if you want to, you can increase the cream to 1.5 to 2 cups in this recipe, but honestly, I thought it was fine the way that it was. Although I guess you could leave out the rum extract, I think you should follow my recipe exactly because it does something that I can't explain. That combination of rum extract and vanilla definitely gave this eggnog that special, unmistakable flavor. I also wanted to mention that off camera I added an additional 1/4 teaspoon of both the rum and vanilla extract, bringing both to 1.25 teaspoons, but honestly I think it would be fine with just 1 teaspoon of both extracts. Honestly, this was absolutely fantastic, and if you love non-alcoholic store-bought eggnog like I do and it reminds you of your childhood, you should definitely make this recipe. I know you'll love it. As always, thanks for watching.